How can one become so bounded by choices that somebody else makes?
When Adele said, "How can one become so bounded by choices that somebody else makes?" Yeah, that hit hard. Of course you've heard slogans like, "My body, my choice," and "No uterus, no voice," in reference to maintaining women's reproductive rights within the control of a woman, without any external interference, with interference in this case referring to the man or the government. The flawed part of these slogans is the fact that a woman's biology is not only her destiny, but also the man's destiny. The availability of contraception and abortion ascertain that women have complete control of their biology, and their destiny by extension. The modern woman, who claims that men should be allies, believes that she's the only one entitled to choice, completely oblivious of the fact that her biology is also his destiny. Like this. After conception, there are two choices for the woman to make. 1. Either keep the baby, or 2. Procure an abortion. In making these choices, the woman's voice is primary, and whatever she decides, the man has two jobs or options. First, make sure to be okay with it. Second, finance that choice. If the woman decides that she doesn't want to keep the baby, the putative father should at the very least be supportive of that, and the most, pay for the abortion, as well as everything in between. It neither matters if the father wants to keep the baby, nor how he feels about his complete inability to protect his potential offspring, because at this point, he will constantly be reminded that he's not the one carrying the baby. The law in Planned Parenthood of Central Missouri v. Danforth ensures that the putative father has no say on whether the pregnant woman carries the pregnancy to term, especially in instances where she wants to terminate. Further, women can give up their children, as easy as leaving them at a hospital, police precinct, or church, or give them up for adoption without the father's consent, even if the father was involved in the child's life. She mostly doesn't report any regret with abortion, but it doesn't matter if he feels guilty, shame, or powerless for being unable to protect his offspring. If she wants to keep the baby, it doesn't matter if he has no interest in being a father, because again, it's her body, it's her choice. Once she exercises the unilateral choice to carry the pregnancy to term, then she goes back to the government that she said shouldn't meddle in what she does with her body to lead the charge in telling him what to do with his money. They call it child support. And despite what men might largely think, women and the government insist that it is actually for the child. As it pertains to the unilateral decision to carry the pregnancy, at the very least, he should be supportive of the pregnancy lest he be shamed for wanting otherwise, and the most, he should be a present father because the baby is already here now. Oh, and now they remind him that she didn't make the baby alone even though she made the unilateral decision. And the damned patriarchal courts have really pronounced themselves in making sure that fathers do not have a way out, irrespective of the circumstances surrounding conception, making sure that privacy and consent are strictly female. Courts in Dubé v. Wells argued that men having reproductive rights is actually unheard of, and from the decision, it should remain as such, unheard of. The presiding judge noted, quote, "If chivalry is not dead, the same chivalry that was killed by feminism and is picked or expected by women in instances where it serves them, its viability is greatly imperiled by the plaintiff in this case." In a nutshell, a woman decides whether or not a guy gets laid, she decides whether or not she will be on contraception, she then decides whether or not she will carry a pregnancy to term. His voice is technically non-existent, but when she decides there's a baby here, the courts tell him that he has as much responsibility as her if not more because they were equals in the process of making the baby. Should the government be fully involved, or it should not? Independent women, making autonomous decisions, then forgetting about their independence and turning around to not only expect men to clean up after them, but also weaponize courts forcing men into financing these choices. Give women choice and call it rights, then go ahead and give men responsibilities with little to no rights. In countries like America, the father is imprisoned for having child support arrears as it amounts to a felony, with American prisons hosting 50,000 fathers on any given day. Child support is still counted in instances where the father is incarcerated unless they can afford an attorney because they're not entitled to a public defendant. With all these responsibilities, and the underlying enforcement, what happens when he complies with the child support payment and she violates his visitation rights? The answer is simple: nothing. As a matter of fact, she can even decide to give up the child for adoption without his knowledge even if he's been a present father. And most of us live in patriarchies, imagine if they were matriarchies instead.